How are you doing?
I'm good. Welcome back, Prash.
Yeah.
Episode 5 we're on now, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, technically episode 4 because we split the last one into two parts.
Oh,
But yeah,
yes.
I guess we can just say it's episode 5.
Well, for
But
the viewers, it's 5.
yeah, so for those who have been tuning in, like welcome back to our podcast. So this is the Resilient Voices Real Talk podcast. So I'm Prash, and I've got obviously Shweta here. Super grateful to be here again because we get to talk about our experiences. So the last few episodes, me and Shweta have really focused in on and been opening up about our experiences of going through divorce, right? Especially
Mm,
navigating it through the lens of being in the South Asian culture. So this is a huge thing,
yeah.
big stigma around this as well. And we've talked about what led to our divorces, how it impacted us individually, the pressures that we kind of felt from the community, a really important one, which was our healing journeys, rebuilding as well post divorce, finding faith in something that is great as we talked about in the last episode, right, where we talk about finding faith in God and a divine
Yeah.
power such as like the universe as well, and even kind of like we touched on stepping back into the dating world, right? And I feel like
Right at the end of that episode, yeah, we did.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I feel like up until now all the episodes and everything we've kind of talked about has been very real, been very raw. And I think the great thing about it is like we're just getting started with it. So I know you probably feel the same. Like we've still got so much to talk about, so much value to add to like all the audience and people tuning in, right? Especially from like the work that we do, right? Like myself as a
Mm.
coach and also the coaching and leadership work that you do as well, right? And embodiment stuff. So we have such great value to add to obviously the audience. So today we wanted to kind of talk about something that's very crucial before you think about even finding that forever person that we kind of dream of, right, post divorce, and that's kind of learning about more about how to be happy within yourself, right?
Absolutely.
Because yeah,
That is
because if you're
key.
carrying unhealed trauma, unresolved pain, or looking for someone else to fill the gap for you, you're not really ready to kind of get back out there. And this is all about doing the inner work, getting right with you first. And I think that's a huge part that a lot of people miss. So the love you attract is truly a reflection of the piece you've already built, right? So yeah, I think we can kind of like branch off to talking about like what we did individually to focus on ourselves, right? Or what were the lessons we've learned, right? Because I know you've had your experiences from a female point of view, and so have I from a male aspect as well, right? Like stepping back into the dating world. But I guess for you, like my question to you is as well, like Shweta, like what was your experience like post divorce and then kind of getting back into the dating world?
So I think if we rewind it a little bit, and
Hmm.
particularly picking up on the last episode or the last couple of episodes around that healing and growing journey, it doesn't stop, right? Once you've got your decree absolute, it continues. And particularly with those that have divorced and then have got kids, it's then you're basically having to reestablish that relationship with your ex-partner,
Hmm.
because whether we like it or not, we're stuck with them, right? That is the father or the mother of your child, whoever, whichever way you look at it. It was funny. I was having a conversation with a group of ladies just yesterday evening. It's like we're stuck with them, right?
Yeah.
Because you've got a child with them. And
Yeah.
so that relationship of parenting is not going to suddenly end. So it's then navigating that new world and taking out that bitterness, the anger. Quite a lot of people still have that, or they've got wounding around that and trauma, which still needs processing. And it's something you said, or me, you and I talked about that in a previous episode, where if you don't deal with that, you're just going to pass that on into your next relationship. And I know for quite a lot of single parents that I know of, they then search for their next partner thinking that's going to complete them, or that's their next thing is to find happiness there, where it's actually feel whole in yourself.
Yeah.
And in the first thing to do is really, it's a corny thing. I know people talk about self-love, but fall in love with yourself. How is anyone else going to fall in love with you if you don't even love and like yourself?
Yeah.
Right? And if you're also feeling not that great and you've got this massive expectation of your partner, if you're not there, how the hell do you expect that person to meet you there? Right? So there's got to be a bit of a reality check here. And I think for me in my journey, that was the first thing, was just like, all right, that realization I'm stuck with him. I think we actually even said that to each other, like, all right, it's not like it's really the end.
Yeah.
And so how do we navigate this next part of the
Mm.
journey? And mine was a bit unusual, Prash, because it was during lockdown.
Mm. Makes it even harder, right?
Yeah, harder, and it's not real, is it? Well, it is real, but it's real's not the right word. It's not normal circumstance, whatever normal means, right? It's not day to day life. What lockdown was, we're just coping. So, all right, you see your kid for a couple of hours here or there because that's all, Boris at that time allowed. But in reality, that's not a long term structure. So it's establishing, what does your co-parenting structure look like? So for me, it was, what does that dynamic look like for us? This is temporary.
Yeah.
What does that look like long term? And it was a gradual thing we had to navigate
Mm.
and build on. And it didn't happen sort of overnight. And even same for you, Prash, is like, you're a new parent now.
Mm.
Your daughter didn't come with a manual. Mine's didn't anyway,
Yeah.
right? Like how to parent, what to do. So there is still that. Like you've got to
Yeah.
remember, at the time I'd divorced, separated, she was 3. She's still quite young, or just turned 3, I think. It's like 2 or 3. So still very young, still sort of in that, he's still newish dad, and I'm still new mum. Plus we've got this added dimension of, all right, we're not together, but we're still parents.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure you can relate to that as well. Like being a new dad, it's still sort of, it changes the dynamic of your relationship even when you are married,
Mm.
right? So how you two were together pre your daughter and how you are now, I'm sure it's different. And I'm not saying we don't need to label that good or bad. It's just a different evolution. You change, you grow, isn't it? Because you've got
Yeah.
a little person
Yeah.
that's in
Yeah.
the dynamic, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. And I think a huge part of this as well, right? Like, yeah, you're definitely right. Like the dynamic changes after, well, the dynamic truly changed once my daughter arrived. But there was a huge part of, just rewinding it back again, right? Like post divorce and going through my healing journey and working through my trauma, that truly had to happen in order for me to get to where I am now, to be the best version of me so I can be an amazing father to my child.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
even before we joined the call, I was talking about like presence, right? Like, and being connected as well, right? To my daughter, because it's like, I don't want her to think that dad just comes and goes, right? Like he's working all the time or whatever. So, and I guess COVID, one good thing out of COVID was, right? Like everyone's like working from home. So you started like, started adjusting to, the working from home kind of environment. And now that I've run my own business as well, like I work from home, right? I do travel around and stuff, like go to see clients or do the podcasts and stuff. But majority of the time, I am at home and I'm in my office. But I make every effort to go in and interact with her whenever I have a gap, and that is just because I have the obviously the luxury to do that, to just dip in and out of the house, and then obviously of course like if she's not napping or anything, then it means that I can interact with her or play with her, right? Or even it's just feeding her or giving her milk or something, right? Like just trying to be that kind of dad, right? But yeah, you're totally right. Like no one really gives you a manual. And I think for me, I've always been, so I'm the youngest in my family, like on my dad's side, youngest cousin. So all the nephews and nieces pretty much gravitate towards me when they were little. I was always the fun mama or fun kaka. So it was like I always thought that it would be easy having a child, but no one prepares you for it, right? Because no one
No.
prepares you for sleep deprivation. Like, like that. I don't. Me and my wife still say this. Like the first 2 months was like a constant train hitting us, like every day. It was like not really sleeping throughout the night, waking up in the morning, and then be like, okay, like all systems go again, and then coming to the end of the night, it's like right, brace yourself. Like we're prepared for another rough night. But do you know what? I'm so grateful that I did all the previous work on myself, and I'm so grateful my wife did the work on herself, because they're the moments of when you are sleep deprived that you can start having problems within your relationship and your marriage,
Oh,
because you will be feeling a certain kind of way towards each other, especially for a guy as well, right? Like the guy can
no.
kind of like from a male perspective, the man can feel very neglected during this period as well, because the
Yes.
priority does move towards the child, and that's okay. And it's how are you communicating that with your partner? And I think a lot of other relationships out there kind of fail on this communication aspect because they don't know how to communicate that to their partners. So yeah, just rewinding back to like, post divorce, like what kind of prepared me for, going back to finding that forever person. And it was the constant work I had to do on myself, right? And I think I would kind of dive into like the whole dating scene as well, right? I think we may have talked about it in the last episode, but
Yeah. But there's something here though, because you and I, as we were going through the divorce and the separation,
mm,
we went through our healing journeys then,
yeah,
right? So when that decree absolute landed, for me anyway, and I think similar for you, we were in a place where we were kind of ready for that next chapter in our
yeah,
life, so to speak, right? But not a lot of people are. That when that lands, that's when it's just like, okay, where now? And there's still a lot of that anger, the bitterness, the aftermath, so to speak, that's still lingering.
yeah,
Yeah, that's still lingering around. And then if you're then bringing that into the dynamic where you've got a little person as well, and you're having to now co-parent that person, it then creates quite a tense environment because you're almost still healing and finding yourself. You haven't got rid of that person, so you're still trying to navigate that. Plus, you've got a little person, so it's quite a lot to navigate. And I think, fortunately, because I'd done quite a lot of self healing work and growth, and I was quite clear on my vision of where I'm going next, I was able to navigate that.
mm,
But not everyone has that clarity.
no,
And I noticed that with my ex partner, with the father of my child. But like for him, it was, which I can relate to you, when those early days, so when they're 0 to 2, they're all mummy, mummy, isn't it? So it's, science based. Obviously, they need the mother for nurturing, they
yeah,
physically need us. And I know there was that sense of he also felt like, well, what's my role in this? Because it's fine. My daughter doesn't need me. So it was then, even though we weren't together, for me, my mindset was always, okay, he's a crap husband, but he's still the father of my child, and I want her to have a healthy dynamic.
mm,
I want her. It's simple. I'm a daddy's girl, right? So I want her to have that same relationship. Having a girl, it's a very different bond, and it's something that a mother can't fill that void. We don't physically have the anatomy to do that. We're not wired in that way, right? There's a
mm,
reason why there are fathers. So I encourage that bond.
yeah,
And I had to put myself, the past, you have to put it, it's like we talked about that forgiveness, especially if you're going to co-parent, you've got to let that go. You've got to let it go. It's the past is over, and start navigating this new path
mm,
that you're now immersion into. And if there is still some stories that are surfacing. So there were points, I'm not going to lie, where he might trigger me unknowingly, but it
mm,
doesn't mean I need to have that conversation with him. That's then something for me to notice, oh, I didn't realize that still triggers me. Okay, let me work on that. It doesn't mean I need to have it out with him.
mm,
And it's particularly not in front of our daughter. So it's interesting. I think a lot of people, this is what I offer anyway to those that are learned, is just to change that mindset of being child-centered.
mm,
This isn't about you anymore. It's about the little people, and trying your best to co-parent with that person and find your healthy dynamic. And if they are triggering you, find a different outlet.
mm,
Find, somewhere else to go, to be like, okay, that triggered me. Let me take ownership of that myself. Let me work on that.
yeah,
Right. And it's like what you were saying with you and your missus, like the sleep deprivation. I know we joke about it, but those things then can lead to arguments, right?
yeah,
People after having kids are like, oh my God, I can't do this, because your relationship dynamic changes.
mm,
But as you said, because you invested in yourself, she's invested in herself, you're able to come together.
yeah,
And then there's the other part as well, is like, well, I'm not just a mother.
yeah,
There is more to me than this. And like, that's what we were talking about. We're like, okay, navigating that dating world
mm,
with this new kind of hat on, isn't it?
yeah,
Is interesting.
yeah. Yeah, it's definitely interesting and challenging as well at the same time, right? Because
Mm,
I think for you as well, like having the mix of having your little one in the picture as well, right? Kind of complicates it a little bit because you got to think about that, when you're dating that person as well, like who is that person? What are their values? Are they going to accept my child? How
mm.
are they going to behave around her? Like there's so much to consider, right? And yeah, I guess for me, I didn't have that complexity of figuring that out, but I still had to make sure that I worked on myself enough to then attract the right person because ultimately that she would, like obviously she's my wife now, but meeting the right person at the start was like well, this person's going to be the mother of my child or my children. She needs to have done that work. And I loved it earlier. You kind of mentioned like, like you raised your hands and you were like kind of like figuring out like, where does that person meet you? And I talk about this with clients as well. And we may have done as well. We may have talked about this as well, but it's like you do so much personal growth, right? Like you start going like this, then that person you're meeting, are they down here or are they kind of like up here? Because if they're still down here, you can't close the gap. You can't come back
Yes.
down, right? Because that's effectively you coming down to a fixed mindset, right? Versus a growth mindset. So you want to keep on pushing forward. And it's like, so when I met Pooja, it was like, well, when I was previously married, I'd probably say I was in a very fixed mindset. And it was like, this is life and that's it. Not open to many possibilities, just this is it, accept it, and you just coast, right? But then after going through divorce, it pushed me into areas that were uncomfortable for me because it's like, well, who is that next person? What does she look like? Right? What am I doing within myself to work on myself, right? And I think that's what it is, right? Like once I started on this journey of personal growth, it's like I was going up, 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 and then the people I'm meeting are like down here, right? Like when it comes to awareness and they're just generally the work they're putting into themselves. And I guess for me, it was like certain people just didn't match that energy. But when I met Pooja, it was like I was up here and I met Pooja, she was like up here, and I was like, oh my God, this is the right person. Because all the work that she started talking about that she'd been putting into herself, I was like, this matches my energy now. And that's when I knew she was the right person. But going back to the whole putting in that work within yourself, right? And I guess this is more for the audience and how we can both add value, right? Like,
Yeah.
how did we do that? What did that
Yeah.
consist of? Because this is what I talk to clients about. And they're like, a lot of my clients are either, post divorce or going through divorce and they're trying to get their life together again, right? Regardless of what stage they're at or trying to build that future vision and they're stuck. And they're like, I
Yeah.
just need help. I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm coming to you, Prash, right? Because I need help on this. And I'm sure you experience the same, right? As well with your clients, right? With considering where they are in their life. So yeah, I guess for you, like what worked well for you and what was the groundwork that you put in?
So a lot of the groundwork it links to. So yesterday evening, I created a safe space for. It's a group of women, and it's called Divorce and Beyond. Right, so quite apt, and we're now doing this
Yeah.
today. One of the things that I kept saying to the women, because some of them are now at that stage where they've now divorced their partner, and it's that what does the next stage look like? It's like get clear on what is it that you love. What do you love for yourself? Where do you see yourself going? And this is more than that pipe dream of how I see myself in 5 years' time. This
Yeah.
is more deeper. What is it that your heart and soul truly loves, and start investing a little bit of that and start doing a little bit of, well, what is that?
Mm.
For me, it was spending time in nature. It was connecting with people. It was going out. It's dancing. It starts off with the little things of doing what do you love, right? Because some of those women, they were still bitter.
Mm.
They were still, and I get it. There was still that anger. There's still, oh, I saw him this weekend, blah, blah, blah. Did the handover with the kids. And I get it. But there would be less of a charge there
Mm.
if you've got something else to focus on. If you got something bigger to focus on,
Yeah.
that you're pouring your focus, your love, your heart, your joy into, then when those moments come, because people do trigger you, it might not even be your ex-partner, it could be just people around you, it happens, right?
Mm.
You're better resourced to do it. It won't suddenly have that level of charge. It will be here. And even if it does creep up, you've got a way to refocus.
Mm.
right? So I think that was a big hook for me was, oh, where am I going? What do I love now? Okay, because at that time I hadn't quite started my business, but I was thinking about it. I was like, oh, what could that look like? Because I was doing two at the same time. I had my full-time job, and I was also like had clients, and I was working for another organization that I trained with. So it was two things that I was doing. It was bringing joy to me. I was also open. I was like, okay, I'm open to welcoming a man into my life. Right? It was just that openness for it. And I think for me, think I had maybe the opposite problem, Prash. Things happened too quickly.
Yeah.
In the sense, and I think I might have mentioned it because I got officially divorced in March, and I met someone literally 3 or 4 months later. And it wasn't, again, not normal circumstances, because if I was out in the world, I'd be meeting loads of people. But this was someone I met, and then initially it was like, hey, let's see how it goes. And it turned into a whole 1 year long relationship. And looking back, I'm actually grateful for it. Because what it helped me to navigate was, oh, I can do this. I can do this with a child and still have a relationship. I can navigate this. And what had happened is I was growing in that relationship as well, because that's how I'm wired. That's how we're both wired, aren't we,
Yeah.
Prash?
Yeah.
We're just continually growing. And obviously I've already got that seed planted of starting my business.
Mm.
And by that, towards the tail end of that relationship, I was ready to go. Whereas I'm with someone who didn't grow in that relationship in that year that I was with them. They stayed more or less the same, and we didn't have the same values. There wasn't meeting us. So we were saying, like, if you're growing, you want to be growing together, and that's okay if one's a little bit ahead, but
Mm.
ultimately you want to meet each other at a certain point.
Yeah.
We weren't meeting each other, and so therefore it had to end. Right? But am I grateful for that? Yes. Did it help me in my journey? Yes, it did. Was it my forever person? No. Am I okay with that? Absolutely, yes. Right? So there is that sense of don't put pressure on finding your forever person, is what I would say first and foremost once you've divorced. Don't put that pressure on. Because when you do, you'll see a lot of men do, some women too. We're all some guilty of this, both sexes, where they're like, this is the one, this is the
Yeah.
one now, and it's like, chill out,
Yeah.
just chill out, because this person who I figured out wasn't for me, for them, it took them a while to realize that it's not a right match, okay? Because we were on different pages, but it was the truth. It was in my highest good and it was in their highest good that we've met each other. We've served each other to a point. This is not working. It is then now becoming unhealthy. So as soon as that relationship starts bordering on unhealthiness, you need to come out. You need to you have that awareness to be able to come out. And then I didn't then jump straight away, Prash, thinking, all right, let me find my next forever person.
Yeah.
No, I was putting my energy into me, into my joy, into what I love, the birth in my business and birth in my, spending time and reestablishing like my own comfort being around men. Because that's another thing as well, isn't it? Of, I think for women, for me anyway, it was then getting comfortable around being within male company, because that year-long relationship wasn't real. I say that because it was during that kind of lockdown period where you're kind of in, you're out. It wasn't fully as it would be now if I was entering a relationship now and we can see each other whenever we want. It was a very different, and I was still establishing my co-parenting dynamic as well with my ex-partner. So I was juggling quite a few things and plates at the same time. And there was just a lot going on. And this person served me in helping me to navigate that co-parenting. I helped him. Our journey ended. And I know for you, because it wasn't like you met your wife, who is your wife now, straight away, right? There were people prior to that. And then you have that realization, no, this isn't it. And then
Yeah.
it's also navigating that, okay, this isn't the one, but I'm sure you didn't go into that mindset like, I'm looking for the one, right?
Yeah.
You have
No.
a vision of that. You invite it, you welcome it in,
Mm.
but it isn't that kind of, let me find them, let me get my little metal detector and look.
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. No, you're definitely right. Yeah, I think for me as well, just to kind of recap as well, like what you were saying there, like at the start, like the groundwork that you put in was like basically shifting your focus onto something else. So whenever that co-parent like triggers you, it does have that charge, right? I love the way you phrase that because it's like it's very true, right? Like energy is energy, and if you're gonna get triggered by someone else, you're gonna give that same energy back, and then it blows out into something that's so much more negative, right?
Yeah.
Versus if you just handle yourself better because your mind is focused on a bigger purpose or something else or another area of your life that's truly making you happy, right? You give that person less power to trigger you. So yeah, I love the way that you put it, like, yeah, less charge here, right? So yeah,
Yeah, that is the magic key.
yeah,
And also, because of the embodiment work I do, it's
mm,
notice how am I able to do that so quickly? Because I
yeah,
can feel, look, does my blood boil? Yes, it does. Am I getting angry? Hell yes.
yeah,
Okay, people. I am not perfect, but the difference here is I clock it in my body.
mm,
I clock that frustration building up. I clock what is happening, and then I'm able to recenter back,
yeah,
right? And it's if you have that as a daily practice, which I do, I'm doing that daily. So when that happens and a person's triggering you, and it's not necessarily your ex-partner, it could be anyone, right? You got that, you're resourced, you've got that toolkit because you've been practicing it daily available to you,
yeah,
right? So it's something that I've wired in me.
yeah,
Yeah. And also because this is why I love my work, because my work also gets me to practice this more and more because then
yeah,
and then I learn something more, right? And it's fueling that even more. So it's putting that energy. So then I'm like, okay, let's put my energy here. So when people trigger, it could be your family members, let's be honest, right? Anyone can. So when things happen, because life throws curveballs at us, you are able to navigate that. And you may react. There are points where I have shouted back. I haven't been like Little Miss Perfect, but I know how to turn it around.
mm, yeah,
And you know the biggest thing, Prash, is admitting when you were wrong.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Accountability for yourself, right?
Take accountability for yourself. So that's what something I would do with my ex-partner. I'm like, okay, I know I shouted that moment, or I know I didn't quite say that right. And this is what I was trying to say. Let's turn this around.
Yeah,
Someone needs to be that bigger person
yeah,
to do that. And it doesn't mean that you're letting go or saying that their bad behavior is acceptable. It's not. You got
yeah.
to put your pride aside sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. Yeah, you got to put your pride and ego to one side if you want a healthy and successful marriage that's got a healthy dynamics that can then filter down to your children and even other relationships around you, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, huge one. Like yeah, I say the same thing for my. I'm not even now. I'm not. But you know what? The most important thing is being accountable and then trying to do better. And I think this is what triggers a lot of people about me as well, because it's like I always keep preaching about like, do good and do better. But then I get judged on periods when when I kind of lose my emotion or I react in a certain situation. But it's like, hang on, I'm taking accountability for that. So like even when me and my wife is all like, we're not perfect, right? We have an amazing relationship. Like, I love this person to bits. She loves me as well. There are times where we will get annoyed with each other. And it's a matter of catching myself after. So if I've got annoyed in the moment, it's like stepping away, allowing myself to process what I've just felt or what I've said or what I've done, or whatever's been done to me, and that's triggered me. And then I go back to her and I say, "I'm really sorry for how I behaved earlier or what I said. I truly didn't mean it. And the reason I said it was because of X, Y, Z, or it triggered me because of this, right?" And so again, like I'm taking accountability, like this is
Yeah.
what I've done, and I'm truly sorry for it. But also, I will learn to do better moving forward. So I think this is it, right? It's so important to want to keep doing better. Like this is it with personal growth, right? Like you never reach the destination. It's a forever process in your life, right? So again, like when we go to like, go back to the whole dating thing, and when you meet that that person who you want to spend the rest of your life with, yeah, you're right. Like sometimes one person might be ahead of the other person, but as long as you're meeting somewhere and reconnecting, right, like at whatever points, that's what you ideally need. But yeah, yeah, you asked me about my dating experience as well. So
Mm.
I definitely didn't go in with the intention initially of I'm dating again. I want to meet that forever person. right? So when I started dating again, it was like, I was encouraged into that, going to that from like people around me. They were like, you know, up until that point of separating from my ex-wife, I'd only ever been with her. So after that, it was like, okay, well, this is a whole new world to me. Like I've got to start learning how to flirt and all this stuff, right? Like you forget
Yeah,
all of this stuff,
true,
right?
you do.
So yeah, I spent 12 years with my ex-partner. So then to kind of like come out of that
Yeah.
and then moving forward, it's like, how do I navigate this? There was so much anxiety for me. So, I've got, yeah, and even people around me were like, you've got so much stuff going for you, Prash. Like, you're tall, you're not so bad looking. Well, I don't think I'm bad looking, but yeah, it was like, you're genuinely a nice person. You can find, you can get out there in the dating world, but I got so much anxiety around it. It was just like initially I was just like, no, 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 I'm gonna wait, I'm gonna wait. One, I had to wait anyway because of the whole like separation period, because I think there's like a window that you got to wait until you start kind of getting back out into the dating world, just so it doesn't
What
affect you legally.
is it?
So yeah, it's something along the lines of like, so the other person can't say that you've been with that, you had an affair or whatever, right? Things along the
Oh,
lines
because
of that.
yours was, yeah, happened quite quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was a little period where I had to wait to get back out into the dating world. But once I did, it was like, right, I'm just going to see what's out there and like, talk to a few girls and just see what this is like, right? So yeah, the intention was never to get back into a serious relationship. It was just let me just see what's out there and let me experiment with like gaining my confidence as well, right? Because this is a huge shift in my life. I haven't had to do this since I was 16 years old, like, and I've got to do this again at like 28, 29, yeah, 28 years old. Like, I don't know what this even, what this job entails of like, you actually meeting someone. So for me, it was a huge learning curve. But yeah, it was never to meet someone. It just happened that the person I did start dating, one thing led into another, and it was like, oh, actually, I actually enjoy spending time with you. She felt the same as well. But even at the time, I was still going through my divorce process, so a bit of a hindrance at the start. But then I think she saw like the how genuine I was, but more importantly as well, like who I'm trying to become. And I was already on my personal growth journey. However, there were a lot of red flags for me as well, and I'm sure there were red flags for her at that start of that dating phase, right? But that relationship lasted for like I want to say like a year and a half or so. Had plenty of ups and downs though, right? And I can confidently say that I look back on it now, I'm like that relationship was destined to fail at some point, right? Because it was more like I'm coming out of something really serious. I've then gone into this new relationship, which was just initially like, it was just a bit of dating here and there. Then it got really serious, and it was like, okay, well, looks like we're, dating each other. We're actually exclusive to each other now, right? Like we're not dating anyone else now. That then obviously lasted like a year and a half or so. And there were so many red flags in there, but looking back on it now, I'm like, well, I learned so much from that experience. And yeah, like in in the dating relationship that you were in, you were still
Yeah.
growing. So I think that
Mm,
was the important thing for me, right? Rather than looking back on it like, oh, it was a failed relationship. I could have done this differently,
exactly.
or why would they like this and they shouldn't have told me this or whatever, right? I look back on it and I'm like, well, actually, it taught me on what I truly valued in my life, but it also
Yeah.
taught me on me setting my boundaries, right? There were certain things that were said very early on in the relationship, which were red flags for me, but I didn't act on it. And I just kind of like I brushed it under the carpet because I was too invested in actually just like enjoying and being present in the moment without really thinking about the future. And then when you get emotionally invested into that person as well, it's like it's hard to kind of come out of it, right? So,
Mm.
but yeah, I think overall I saw it as a period of growth. Like, what can I learn from this situation? What did I learn from this relationship? And I wish that person all the best in their life as well. And I think for me, it's like, what did I take from that that I can then work on myself? And I think that's the important part. So it's not what the other person wasn't entirely bringing to the table for me. It was like, how could I myself here? Where was I going wrong? And I think this is a huge part that so many people miss because of pride and ego, right? It can often get in the way where people don't want to admit their wrongs, right? So yeah, for me it was like, what can I do differently? What what is still triggering me here that didn't quite work in this relationship? So how can I
Mm.
make myself better and healthier for the next relationship? And then it wasn't long after that I met my wife now, and it was just like and it's because I took that time. I also stepped away from the dating dating scene as well, because I was like, I need to focus in on myself now. What do I truly need here? Who am
Exactly.
I trying to become?
Yeah.
What are the values that I want in that other person? And then when you start to embody them values as well, right? As many values as you can, right? And I think that was the shift for me. And that's when I met my wife now. And it's just like, if I didn't put in that groundwork of healing myself and forgiving people in my past as well, so like my ex-wife, her parents, anyone I dated in that period, post-divorce as well, if I didn't forgive them for the things that I had experienced, I would not have met someone like my wife now who has put in the groundwork. She's also forgiven people in her past because she was like in a on the dating scene for like 9 years. She was like divorced for 9 years before the two of us met, which is insane, right? Like she got married fairly young, at like 22 or 23. So
Well,
9 years to go through of like, multiple, people that she was dating, to then being like, well, is this going to work for me or not? And then eventually coming across me. But again, she put in the groundwork and it was in, that there's definitely divine intervention here, right? Like people up there are definitely looking out for you, like God or the universe or whatever, right? Because so we talked about COVID, like COVID did change a lot of stuff. It made a lot of people realize and prioritize themselves, right? And I think that's
mm,
what it was for my wife and also for me, because I learned that I had to focus back in on myself. I had to make myself happy and stop searching for happiness in a partner, because I had
exactly.
companionship and happiness with a partner for 12 years. Well, I wouldn't say happiness throughout the whole 12 years, but I
Yeah.
had companionship, right? And I always put my happiness in that other person. And that was when the shift happened for me, because I was like, actually, hang on, I need to be happy within myself. How am I spending time by myself? Do I enjoy being in my own company? And it's simple things as like even just sitting there watching TV, or sitting there and journaling, and just or going for a walk by yourself, or going to the cinema, going out for food by yourself, right? Like it may sound cheesy to a lot of people, but it's like or even daunting, right? But when you start doing these things, like you start to become more and more comfortable in your own skin and who you are as a person. So then you can actually meet the right person. Sorry, I'm rambling on a bit too much here.
Well, no, because I think it's an important thing you've said is that self-awareness that you had at that point, as in, I need to let go of my past. I need to that forgiveness piece of my ex-partner, this your first girlfriend that you had post your divorce, all of that, letting that go. It's like the shedding process,
Yeah,
right?
that's it.
It
Yeah.
was you needed to shed, and then you realize, hold on, there's still more to shed,
Mm.
right? And there's no timeline for that shedding process, like you said with your other half. For her it was 9 years. For you, okay, it was shorter. For me,
Yeah.
it's different for everyone, but
Mm.
it is important to realize that see it as a gift. Like that relationship that I had, the first one, look, it's very obvious it was a rebound. It was way too soon.
Yeah.
And it helped me in my growth, and there were things that I still needed to share. And it also highlighted that the things I liked in this person, some of the quality, but then I was also compromising quite a lot of myself and my voice, right? And I was like, well, I'm not going back there,
Mm.
right? And it was then for me, then it triggered a few other things about my relationship with them with the masculine,
Yeah.
right? It opened up a whole other can of worms there. So
Mm.
it was then I needed to take that time out for myself. Okay, but a little bit more shedding to do here. But at the same time, I'm still creating and focusing on what I love,
Yeah.
right? So you can do them both at the same time. You can heal and grow at the
Mm.
same time. You can still be pouring your heart and focusing on what you love and
Yeah.
creating that. So for me, I was obviously pouring that into my business, into my relationships, into very beautiful like dynamics that I now have, healthy relationships,
Yeah.
right? And then I did eventually meet a very, a gorgeous man, right?
Mm.
Who, like you said, then embodied those values.
Yeah.
The only thing there was it was not that romantic. So it's always, but then you learn, okay, well, sure, maybe you were looking for a bit more safety then. Maybe we were inviting more loving. Okay, open up a little bit more. So you're evolving, right?
Yeah.
It's part of that evolution. It's part of that growth.
Mm.
And one thing that I say a lot to my clients as well is that ultimately you are the predominant creative force in your life.
Mm.
You create everything. All right. So if you've got that mindset that you can create anything and you can create all those wonderful things in your life, then okay, what am I creating that isn't so healthy and how can I change that around? It's in your power to change that outcome. It's within you. And part of that is what you were saying, Prash, is then that self-awareness of, oh, hold on, what's triggering me? Well, what just happened there? Get curious about those things.
Yeah.
Start unraveling the layers of that onion. It doesn't mean that you're failing or you're falling apart. You're good, I'm good, we didn't fall apart, right?
Yeah.
Just evidence here for people.
Yeah.
We were still showing up and doing what we love, but we were also doing that, and it's continual, right? Something now, you're a new parent, I'm navigating things as well. Constantly things are going to come, but just know that it's in you to be able to change that outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's really important to have something to focus on.
Yeah.
That
I
is
agree.
like so critical, to have something that is not dependent on another person. So I know this sounds a bit strange, but it's like you're not dependent on your wife to make you happy, and she's not dependent on you to make you happy, right? You're coming together because you've got shared values, shared goals, but you're still two different entities,
Yeah.
two different beings that have come together. Yeah, there's not a codependency, and you're not kind of at loggerheads. You
Yeah. Yeah.
keeping that sovereignty, as they call it, isn't it? Of
Yeah.
that balance. It's the figure eight of the
Yeah.
relationship flowing. So the
Yeah.
energy
Yeah.
is flowing rather than you. And then when it does come to a point where, hold on, you may be engrossing them too much or you're going a bit too far apart, to come back together. Yeah, but to do that, you need self-awareness. It all starts with awareness, and see those opportunities when things are not going right. Like, okay. Something one of my teachers from back in 2016 said, and I was like, what are they on about? But they were like, conflict is good, Shwa. I was like,
Yeah.
what do you mean conflict's good? It's like, it's a learning opportunity. It means we've just discovered something here about you. We can work on that,
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
right? So he was like, it's great, because whenever things are going good, it's like, oh, that's great, that's great. Conflict, great, lad, we got something to work on. And it isn't just because, oh, yeah, here's a problem we can solve. It means this is how you're going to grow,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? It's part of then your evolution, your growth.
Yeah. It's like it's uncomfortable, right? To like face them like emotions or them thoughts, right? Or beliefs that you've had. So yeah,
Yes.
like and challenging it is the hard part, right? But yeah, you're right. That's where the growth happens, right?
It's probably a conversation to continue for another episode. But what are parting thoughts to leave here?
Yeah. I think for me it is and this is the advice I give to my clients as well, right? And it's that it's so important once you go through a divorce or whatever. I can't emphasize the importance enough. Don't jump into something else with the intention of this is my forever relationship now. Take the time that you need. If you're gonna date, you can carry on and date, right? But take the time to work on yourself, right? And I also have clients as well, like who are in the dating world and they've had to take a step back because they're like, it's too much. Like it's too intense, and I just need to center myself again and remind myself, like, who I am as a person, right? Before trying to meet that other person. But yeah, honestly, one thing I can get, leading by example as well, right? Like once you do shift the focus back to yourself and focus on working on you, you can truly change your life around because as you said, like you are the creator of your own life, right? You truly are. Like I attracted all of these situations and people into my life, right, in what seemed as a positive but then ended up in a negative. But on the flip side of that, I've also attracted positive people into my life, and that then relationships have remained positive, just like my dynamic with my wife. But I guess that's my parting gift is like focus in on yourself as much as you can, work on yourself, heal yourself as much as you can before you start trying to find that forever person. Yeah. How about you?
Yes. Amen to that.
Yeah.
I double down on that.
Yeah.
And ultimately, invest in yourself. Invest in really getting curious about what do you love, what's your vision for your future, where do you want to go next, and moving away from the victim mentality of life happening to you. Be the leader in your life,
Yeah.
steer your ship. Where do you want to go?
Mm.
And be purposeful in that. And don't be looking for happiness in another person.
Yeah.
That is not the magic key. The happiness is in yourself,
Yeah.
is my parting thought.
Yeah. No,
You're
I love that.
discovering
And
that.
yeah. I think Will Smith said it the best as well, right? I think I seen him on an interview and he was like, you shouldn't be looking for a relationship for the other person to make you happy. You should be happy within yourself to for you both to then come together to make each other happier.
Yes.
There's a difference with searching for happiness and then searching for someone to make you happier. So you've already reached a certain level, but yeah, thank you for sharing your thoughts as well. Really appreciate it. So I guess
Cool.
it's kind of like everything we've talked about today also will probably lead us on to like the whole diving into the co-parenting thing, and then like, and even for myself, right, like how I feel as a father now with my child and my wife as well. So the challenges I've faced. So yeah,
Yes, there's
yeah,
more to come. So we'll, yeah,
yeah,
we'll continue this for the next episode.
yeah,
But bye for now. Thank you
yeah.
for
Bye for
listening.
now.